Hi everybody, Natasha Koch here with the Van City Home team and this week's Van City Scoop Live. Hope everybody had an amazing long weekend. I had a remarkably quiet weekend. I got caught up on a lot of things. I didn't go anywhere other than just some meetings with clients that were around and not away for the weekend, so it was kind of nice. It's hot today, which is a good thing. We're not going to have too many more of these days. I'm already noticing in the morning that the dew is settling. So summer will be over, so don't complain about the heat. I'm not complaining. However, it's hot in the house right now. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about pre-sales. I've probably done this talk before, but I think it's probably necessary as there's many of them that are being developed as we speak and offering lots of different promotions. So I just want to talk about some of the common questions that people may have when buying a pre-sale. So I guess the first one we should start with is, what is a pre-sale? So a pre-sale, hi Rebecca, thanks for joining. A pre-sale is when you're buying something that hasn't been built yet. So a pre-sale is not built, a resale is already built, lived in, and they're reselling it. So often when you go on MLS, you will see properties that are for sale that are resale. Some of the pre-sales are listed on MLS, but not often. In the past, in the quick market, developers didn't need to list them on MLS because there was such a demand for pre-sales that they would just hire their own marketing team and sell out the project in a day or two. Things have kind of changed and the market has slowed a little bit. So we are seeing more and more pre-sales on MLS. So a pre-sale is an opportunity to buy something that's not built yet. Generally, the construction could be anywhere from, hi Terry, thanks for joining, anywhere from a year to and sometimes even 3 years out. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence as far as planning, I guess, knowing where you're going to be in 3 years, because a lot of people are moving constantly and things change in their lives, so you don't want to get committed to buying something that doesn't happen for 3 years if you're not going to be around. So here's some common questions that people have when it comes to buying a pre-sale. And number one is the deposit. So I'm going to give you sort of the pre-sale versus resale scenario. So when you buy a pre-sale, there's usually different payment structures as far as a deposit goes. Initially, there's usually like $1,000 or $5,000 deposit upon signing, and that just shows good faith that you want to move forward with the purchase. The contracts of purchase and sale made by the developer are not the typical real estate board contract of purchase and sale. They do their own. They have their lawyers generally draw up their own contracts. And this just protects the interest of, the developer and outlines, and the buyer actually in a lot of cases, but just identifies exactly what you can expect when you go into the purchase and what you're going to get for your money. Then you would, within a time period, and in some cases now they're offering a lot of promotions. You've probably seen signs where they have rent back for the first year or mortgage payments paid for the first year. Basically, those are obviously marketing promotions in order to sell out their project, because in a lot of cases, when a developer decides to do a project, he or she does need to sell a certain amount before they can actually move forward to construction. And it basically will show the bank in good faith that their plan for the development itself is a good one, and then it's going to come to fruition. So they do need a fair amount of pre-sales in order to begin. So that being said, some promotions will follow. So when you do see these promotions of, rent back and those kind of things, there is some negotiating room. Generally in the past, there hasn't been any negotiating room on price, but maybe you can get appliances included, window coverings, maybe some landscaping if it's a townhome or even a development that you purchase, a single family home. So you can negotiate a little bit on that. You can also negotiate as far as your deposit structure now a little more than you used to be. But the benefit to a pre-sale is that you only need to come up with a certain amount of a deposit. So usually between 10 and 15%. So the nice thing about that is for people that may not have a full deposit available to them, such as buying a resale, which I'll explain in a minute, you can continue saving for your down payment while you have your deposit in a pre-sale. So if you think, okay, well, I'm working on my credit, I'm going to qualify for financing, in the next couple of years. I really don't want to miss out on the housing market. So maybe a pre-sale is an opportunity for you to do that. Although there is risks, of course, in that because if something happens and you can't get your conventional financing come time to closing, which is when the money will be due for the mortgage, then you do risk losing your deposit. So the deposit question, what happens to the deposit? Does the developer spend it? No, the developer does not spend your deposit. The deposit actually gets held in usually the lawyer that's acting for the developer in their trust account. Hi, Celia. Thanks for joining. And so it gets held in their trust account until the completion date, at which time then it goes towards the purchase price and then it is used then. So it's not spent by the developer. In a resale situation, your deposit can generally be also 10% if you're buying with 10% down. However, the closing date for resales generally are 30, 60, or 90 days out. So you'd have to have your mortgage in place and you'll have to start making those payments, within that 30, 60, 90 days. Whereas a pre-sale, obviously, you could be waiting 1, 2, or 3 years. Okay, so next question that a lot of people ask is, can I change my mind? Sometimes you go into the showrooms and you see how fantastic everything's going to look. They usually have a sample of what the kitchen and the fixtures are going to look like, and you're kind of in the zone. And you make a decision immediately, and you sign a contract, and then you leave and you think about it and you change your mind. A lot of people change their mind on resale purchases too. It's called buyer's remorse, but it definitely happens a lot in a pre-sale situation. So a lot of developers offer a rescinding time period for your contract. It's usually 7 days. So you've got kind of 7 days to think about it, do a little more research, make sure you're making the right decision, and then and of course, it should be written in the contract what your time period is for your deposit refund. Regarding the refund, also, I should mention that if for some reason the developer can't complete on the project, or something happens, or the bank decides that he hasn't met the criteria in order to move forward with the project, they do return your deposit. In those circumstances. And there's a clause in their contracts that generally stipulate that, that if they can't move forward, then you'll get your money back. Okay, so next is number 3, mortgage. So how do mortgages work on pre-sales? Well, versus resale. So pre-sales, you don't actually have to have your mortgage in place. You should have a general idea of whether or not you're going to qualify. As I said earlier, you could lose your deposit if you don't have your mortgage in place by the time it completes. And as we all know, mortgage rates change, lending criteria changes, and so there is a little bit of risk involved in making sure that you're going to qualify for the mortgage upon completion. On a resale, you have to get your mortgage in place right away because generally you would make an offer subject to financing. And at that point, you would have to know whether or not you're going to qualify for a mortgage. So it's a little bit different. Number 4, real estate commission. This is a question that I wasn't going to bring up, but I've had it asked many times. So as I said, developers often sold their own projects with their own development team. And so the question is, well, if those are not realtors selling me the pre-sale, am I able to still use a realtor? Because obviously we do not represent both buyer and seller any longer. There's no longer the ability to have dual agency. And even beforehand, it was very risky because obviously it was a conflict of interest. So Same thing with developers. You're more than welcome to use a realtor. Hi, Shane. Thanks for joining. You're more than welcome to use a realtor. Often, just as the seller's in a resale situation, the developer pays the commission to the realtor. Usually the realtor won't get paid until completion date as well. Right now, there's some definite bonuses in order to encourage realtors to bring their clients. So you don't have to pay the real estate commission. That's offered by the developer. So yes, you can use a realtor to make a purchase. So those are kind of the 4 main questions that are often asked about pre-sales. Now, I don't know what area you guys are in or anybody that's watching. Obviously, pre-sales are different in all provinces and all states. We have had a number of them in Vancouver. A lot of questions is, is it a good time to buy a pre-sale now based on what's happening in the real estate market of Vancouver? This is where the risk is involved. So is the price that the developer is stating on that development going to sustain itself? So that's food for thought. So in 2-3 years, you've committed to buy something and maybe the market shifts and you're now committed to buying something that may not be worth the price that you agreed to buy it at. So risks and rewards, I think just in summary, some of the rewards are that you don't need to have the money right away. You have a minimal deposit put down, could be a very lucrative investment. You have time to save and get your ducks in a row to qualify for financing. And you also purchase a brand new property that no one's lived in with a warranty. And then, of course, some of the risks. You may not qualify for the mortgage. It may not be worth the money that you pay for it. Well, those are pretty much the 2 main risks anyway. So hopefully you found this helpful on pre-sales, and we will see you on Thursday with the Van City Scoop. Thanks for joining, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.